Hello guys, I just came from work. I'm tired, but I've been wanting to shoot this video for the last 21 hours because I am really pissed off about a lot of things. Now, as you saw in the title, I'm gonna react to probably the most outrageous thing I've ever saw on Twitter, especially the most outrageous thing that I've ever seen by someone who was a world leader, who was leader of a country. It's incredible. And the reaction, the way Twitter handled it was unbelievable. It was surreal. But before I talk about that, there's a lot of things I want to talk about. There are a lot of things that have been upsetting me for a very long time, and I think now is the time to talk about them. Now, it's been a while since I've done an unscripted rant, and this is what this video is. I have no idea how this is gonna go, but hopefully I'll be able to make sense and express myself clearly. So yesterday, I was involved in an argument, I suppose you can call that, with a couple of progressists. And you know, it's the same fucking shit. You get these fucking dumb fucks who have this stupid double standard when it comes to Islam that it's beyond frustrating. I was physically repulsed with these people, with this whole fucking thing. How criticism of Islam is branded Islamophobia, but criticism of Christianity is kosher. Like, it's fine. You can say extremely offensive things about Christianity, how you think it's a despicable religion and so forth. Nobody assumes that you are talking about all Christians. People know that, not all Christians believe that. But if you say that Islam is a horrible religion, suddenly you get responses like this shit. This dumb fuck here, furry avatar, probably the worst oppression ever had in life was being misgendered on Twitter. And it's always like this, they can see through it, your implicit bias. Like, bitch, you can see implicit bias. You can probably see your ass from your elbow. Fuck off. People who have their whole view of Islam from AJ+, Rainbow Al Jazeera, whitewash Islam propaganda for a white audience. These people are mostly Americans, and they look at American society and power structure and power dynamics within American society, and they think that the same shit applies to the entire world. Within an American context, yes, Muslims are a minority. And as an immigrant minority, like most fucking immigrants, they get a lot of shit. The system is kind of set up to fuck them up. But within a global context, things are fucking different. In many ways, Islam is extremely oppressive. When you look at Islamic societies, how they oppress minorities, how LGBT people are in some places outlawed, in some places where they aren't outlawed, they are still pariahs in society. There's a very good documentary about trans people in Pakistan. And don't tell me that's not religious. Islam is the ideology, is the philosophy that is maintaining those patriarchal structures. It's so fucking cringe every time a fucking liberal dipshit on the internet says, oh, it's culture, it's not religion. What do you think Sharia law is, you dumbass? And then there is a fucking double standard. How many videos you have of atheists, American usually, white, middle class for the most part, responding to an evangelical. And they point out how Christianity is bad, and nobody gives them shit for it. They are not called Christian phobic for saying that Christianity, when you look into its core, when you look into its scripture, it's fucked up. It's promoting an extremely patriarchal model of society, and it's fucked up. People point out that about Christianity, they are not called bigots, they are not called racists. You do the same shit to Islam, suddenly you are a bigot, suddenly you are an Islamophobe, suddenly you are saying all Muslims are bad. You're doing the same shit that you do to Christians, and to me, that sort of shit is not just frustrating anymore. It is repulsive. Now, let's go through the fucking thread from the Prime Minister. So let's have a little look at who this man is. So Mahathir Mohamad was Prime Minister of Malaysia from 1981 until 2003, and then later from 2018 until March 2020, so right recently. And he was described once by the New York Times as a moderate voice for Islam, an example of a progressist Muslim who looks forward. He fully welcomed capitalism and technological development in Malaysia. Malaysia has economic growth and technological growth under his leadership, and he was leader for a very long time. He's seen as this progressive voice, as someone who is looking forward. But let's have a look at his views on Judaism. That's a very interesting one. Mahathir Mohamad is a self-proclaimed anti-Semite. Among the quotations that are used to illustrate his views are, "I am glad to be labeled anti-Semitic. Jews are ruling the world by proxy. The Jews are not merely hook-nosed, but understand money instinctively." The same man wrote a long thread on Twitter to his 1.3 million followers. Let's go. I'm gonna read and pretty much react, I guess. The thread, funnily, is titled "Respect Others." A teacher in France had his throat slit by an 18-year-old Chechen boy. The killer was angered because the teacher was drawing a caricature of Prophet Muhammad. The teacher intended to demonstrate freedom of expression. The killing is not an act that I as a Muslim would approve. But, when someone says but, usually we ignore everything they said before. But, while I believe in the freedom of expression, I do not think it includes insulting other people. Okay, genius? What is the point of having freedom of expression if it's not to give you freedom to insult other people? I mean, freedom of expression just saying rainbows are pretty is pointless. Freedom of expression is exactly to protect you, to say things that will offend people, things that are controversial. That's why we need them. To say things that are uncontroversial, you don't really need that, do you, idiot? You cannot go up to a man and curse him simply because you believe in freedom of speech. Yeah, you can. I mean, if you harassed someone, then yes, that would be considered harassment. If you target someone and you start insulting them, that is not okay. But to make a cartoon of someone who has been dead for over 1,000 fucking years, you're not really harassing anyone, are you? The guy's dead. In Malaysia, where there are people of many different races and religions, we have avoided serious conflicts between races because we are conscious of the need to be sensitive to the sensitives of others. Let's have a look at something very interesting here. I have here the Human Rights Watch report from 2015 from Malaysia. Now, Mohamad wasn't Prime Minister in 2015, he left in 2003. But, it's part of his legacy, he was Prime Minister for quite some time. Let's see what they say, for example, about refugees, asylum seekers, and trafficking victims. Malaysia's immigration law does not recognize asylum seekers or refugees. The government is not a party to the Refugee Convention. It takes no responsibility for the education of refugee or migrant children and does not give refugee legal permission to work. You see, Western progressists? Isn't only European, American, white countries that treat refugees and immigrants like shit. Sexual orientation and gender identity. Discrimination against lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people is pervasive in Malaysia. In September, Human Rights Watch issued a report, "I'm Scared to be a Woman. Human Rights Abuses Against Transgender People in Malaysia." They focus on the impact of state-level Sharia laws that prohibit cross-dressing. You see what I'm talking about? We often copy the ways of the West. We dress like them, we adopt their political system, even some of their strange practices. Yeah, like respecting LGBT people, very strange practices. But we have our own values, different as between races and religion, which we need to sustain. What does it even mean? the whole point here is freedom of speech. So the value that you're talking about is that you need to enforce blasphemy. Is that because this whole thing is about freedom of speech and blasphemy. So the values you're talking about is that you have to enforce blasphemy. If you want to criticize religion, you are not allowed to. If you do, you are arrested, beheaded, or whatever the fuck you do to them. The trouble with new ideas, this guy is a forward-thinking progressist, remember, is that the latecomers tend to add new interpretations. These are not what the originators intended. Thus, freedom for women meant the right to vote in elections. Wow, what an awful thing. Today, we want to eliminate everything that is different between men and women. Gender equality, terrible. Physically, we are different. This limits our capacity to be equal. We have to accept these differences and the limitations that are placed on us. Our value systems is also an important part of human rights. When you're talking about equal opportunity, you are talking about giving men and women equal chance to compete for whatever position. If you deny opportunity to a woman solely on the basis that she is a woman, you don't even give her a chance to demonstrate whether she can perform the job or not, you are stereotyping and missing an opportunity, because maybe she is not only capable of performing the job, but she's very capable of performing the job extremely well. That is not only sexist, but it's also pretty dumb in an economic sense, because you want to have as many people as possible contributing to the economy, working. Yes, sometimes some values seem to be inhuman. They cause some people to suffer. We need to reduce the sufferings, but not by force if the resistance is great. Okay, so it seems that he is against violence, right? Keep that in mind. The dress code of European women at one time was severely restrictive. Apart from the face, no part of the body was exposed, but over the years, more and more parts of the body are exposed. If women want to expose their body, who gives a fuck? It's their body. Today, a little string covers the most secret place. That's all. Now, this is getting creepy. In fact, many in the West are totally naked when on certain beaches. Again, so what? People are naked. Who gives a fuck? The West accept this as normal. Yeah, why not? But the West should not try to forcibly impose this on others. To do so is to deprive the freedom of these people. No. Secularism is not about forcing anything. That is the whole fucking point of it. Secularism is the idea that you are not allowed to force your traditional values on anyone. If you want to be traditional, go ahead, be traditional. Wear as many clothes as you can, 15 layers, cover everything. Nobody gives a shit. But if a woman wants to go to the beach, if she wants to go to the beach with, a little thong, tiny bikini, she's free to do it. It's her body. She wears whatever the fuck she wants. That is what secularism is about. You don't use your religion to enforce your views on others. In fact, no one has the right to enforce anything. That is the point. If you want to be traditional, be traditional. Be happy. No one gives a fuck. But if someone doesn't want to be traditional, if a woman wants to get drunk and fuck as many men as she wants to, it's her choice. It's her fucking life. That's the point of it. And you don't get to enforce on her the same way she doesn't get to enforce on you. And the thing is, and that's why it's scary to these fuckers, is because women, once they hear about progressive values, once they hear about this thing, they choose the progressive values. They don't want the traditional ones. That's why they're so scared. Generally, the West no longer adhere to their own religion. Secularism. Yip-de-doo. They are Christians in name only. Not me. That is their right. But they must not show disrespect for the values of others, for the religions of others. But do that all the time. I show disrespect to Christianity all the fucking time. So if you want to show disrespect to your religion, fuck you if you don't like. I don't give a shit. It is a measure of the level of their civilization to show disrespect. What respect does your civilization shows when it forces women to dress in a certain way? When it prohibits LGBT people to express themselves however they want? So who are you to lecture anyone about freedom? Shut the fuck up. Macron is not showing that he's civilized. He's primitive in blaming the religion of Islam and Muslims for the killing of the insulting school teacher. It is not in keeping with the teachings of Islam. Someone showed a cartoon, somebody found offensive, murdered the person who showed the cartoon. The leader said, the person who killed the teacher is wrong. And it's appalling. It's monstrous, this horrible act in name of religion. What is wrong with this religion that is making people do this? But he's the uncivilized one. But irrespective of the religion professed, angry people killed. The French, in the course of their history, has killed millions of people. Many were Muslims. Yeah, sure they did. Every people has murdered a lot of people. That it has been the history of humanity. Genocide and murder everywhere. Everybody has blood in their hands. Now here is the one. Muslims have a right to be angry and to kill millions of French people for the massacres of the past. This is a moderate Muslim leader. This is incitement to genocide. That's what it is. And the way Twitter handled this shit was surreal. So a lot of people, of course, reported this tweet. I did. And Twitter, when it was reported, didn't initially remove the tweet. It actually kept the tweet as public interest to his 1.3 million followers. If you say someone looks like a brick in a dress, as I did to someone who was insulting me, I said, yeah, you look like a brick in a dress, I got banned. My account was terminated for saying that. Yet, if you incite genocide, not only your tweet isn't deleted, you get to keep your account. Now people pointed out that, oh, you know, he's a prime minister, he's a politician, so they are a bit more lenient to that. The fact that he's a politician gives him more credibility when he says that. The fact that he's a politician means he has a much wider reach when he says that. It's a lot more dangerous to keep someone like that. Hey guys, sorry to shoot this extra little bit, but last night when I was recording it, I was a bit drunk and I was tired, and I ended up missing the last couple of tweets from Mahathir Mohamad's thread. And since his excuse is that he has been taken out of context, I feel I should read this, otherwise I'm gonna be accused of taking him out of context, of not reading the whole thread, so I feel I should do this. But by and large, the Muslims have not applied the eye for an eye law. I agree, they have not applied the eye for an eye law. I mean, they are murdering over a fucking cartoon. That would be more like taking someone's eye after they stomp on your foot. Muslims don't. The French shouldn't. Instead, the French should teach their people to respect other people's feelings. So you're blaming the French for not respecting people's feelings over people getting murdered. 4 people were murdered in the last couple of weeks over a fucking cartoon of a man who's been dead for 1400 years. This is like typical fucking victim blaming. So let's see if the last tweet is a saving grace on this horrific thread. Since you have blamed all Muslims, you see, that's why it pisses me off when supposed liberals say this shit, because this is what murder apologists say. It's the same fucking crap. And the Muslims' religion for what was done to by one angry person actually were 2 murders by 2 people, and there has been many. You know, most Muslims being killed in the Islamic world are killed by other Muslims. So it's not just one angry person. There are entire organizations around the idea of murdering people in the name of Islam. The Muslims have a right to punish the French. Well, they already are, aren't they? They're murdering them over a fucking cartoon. the boycott cannot compensate the wrongs committed by the French all these years. So French made a cartoon, crazy Muslim kills French people, and you boycott the French for being murdered. That is the logic here. That is the context. This is not a fucking saving grace. It's still a fucking pile of shit. If we, liberals, don't take a stronger stand against this, people afraid, angry, will turn more to the far right. That is actually proposing an action. Ban all Muslims. Ban Muslim immigration. Deport all of them. Which I don't agree with. Not what I want to see. But if you keep to coward, if you keep to make excuses for these acts of violence, you are giving the people very few choices. I believe that we should have more refugees and migrants from these places coming. But that can only work if at the same time we are ruthless critics of their religion. We are ruthless critics of their patriarchal way of life. We have to be. If we don't, if we enable it, we are fucked. And they are fucked. Because the people who suffer the most from this awful religion are Muslims themselves. There are every year dozens of thousands of Muslims who are killed in political religious wars. Because that is another thing now, before I end this video. We have this very clear idea of politics and religion separate. That is secularism. That is a Christian idea. It started with Christianity, the idea of secularism. Of separating what is temporal and what is religious. Islam doesn't have that. Everything is mixed. You know, the conflict between Sunni and Shia is both political and religion. There is no separation. And Westerns seem to not really get that. Because for us, it's very clearly separate. So when people say it's not religious, it's political, it's both. The conflict between Sunni and Shia, the conflict with Kurds, with the Taliban, it's both religious and political. And you have to understand that. And that is people trying to enforce their own view of Islam on others. And that is religion. Anyway, the alcohol is really kicking in and it's over. So I don't even have it anymore. And yeah, I guess I said all I have to say. I'm working on a video. This video was not on my plans, but it was important. And I felt it was time to actually say something about it. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you next time. Cheers.